All right, thank you for interviewing with us today. We're super excited to have you, and we are looking forward to add one of the safe Scrum Master into our team. So I guess you're aware that the interview today is going to be on a safe environment. You have some experience with safe?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. Then, yeah, we really want someone with some hands-on that have worked with safe environment before, that has some knowledge on the PI planning, and that's going to be supporting a team of about 6 to 14 people. And yeah, it's one of our team on our Agile release train. We're looking forward to add one team. We already have about 7 teams already. So because our product is expanding, we add in the second, the 17, the 17, the 7 or 8, yeah, on the train. So looking someone that will be able to support the team, collaborate with the release train engineer, and also supporting the PI planning. So I'm going to focus more my interview on that aspect so that we can be able to see if you're the right fit at the end of the day. So before we move ahead, do you have any question in relation to the job description?
Not for now. I'll ask my questions later.
All right, thank you. So can you tell me about your experience with the PI planning? You have any experience with PI planning?
Yes, I do. I do have experience with PI planning, and PI planning is a 2-day event. It's just like a high-level emergent plan of the program increment that's about to happen. And it's just where the whole art comes together and discuss about the vision and the purpose of the product and how to move ahead of that. We have a 2-day planning. The first day is the art come together and the CEO and they discuss about the objectives and come up with the 10 objectives of it. And then we do the breakout section where we the Scrum Master team talk about objectives, and we draft our objectives, and we have an emergent plan for the first 2 iterations. And my duty during the breakout is to make sure that we're still on the same page with our capacity. And after the breakout, we come back together and we submit our objectives to the management. And on the second day, we do review the refine the objectives. And if they're not comfortable with our objectives, we go back to the breakout room where we tweak the objective, and we come back and have I manage the program board where we have our dependencies, and then we talk about the risk, and we use in the room. And after that, we do the confidence, vote of confidence by team. And after the PI planning, we jump into our retro and talk about how what we did the last PI and how we're going to improve in the coming PI planning.
Talking a bit about the retro, the end of the PI, what are some of the improvement items you've been able to notice in relation to your past PI?
I don't understand the question. Can you refine the question, please?
All right. At the end of every PI, as you just said, you hold a retrospective meeting, right? So my question is, what's the purpose of the retrospective meeting, and what have you learned by participating in some of these retrospective meetings?
Yes, thank you for that question. So the retro is for us to improve. It's like I said, Agile is continuous improvement. So it's for us to be able to touch bases about what we did the last PI that really helped us, and what we don't want to happen in the current PI, and what we don't want to see, both in processes and behavior, and how we're going to be able to go further in the current PI planning. Yes, so I've seen that having a retro really helps for us to be on the same page and how to go further in our preparation.
All right, thank you. Now, as a Scrum Master, what do you do to prepare your team for the upcoming PI?
Yes, so before the PI, we have the pre-PI planning. So that's where we have our backlog refinement. So we do the backlog refinement to be able to, and during that backlog refinement, that's where we do most of our estimations and get ready for the current PI, where we do capacity planning and make sure that there's nobody taking vacations and all that. Yes, so we do the pre-PI planning before the PI planning.
Now, one of the major events that happen prior to the PI planning is the system demo. Have you had a chance to participate in any of the system demo? What was your key role?
Yes, so system demo is what comes after the PI planning. That's on the program level. So that's where we do our presentation, present what we did accomplish at the end of the iteration. Yeah, so that's what we do, the system demo. And what my my role is to make sure that everything has gotten to done and make sure that we're ready for this presentation.
Okay.
Today, I don't know what
All
you're
right. So you're doing good. You're okay. You're doing perfectly well. Now, let's talk about the inspect and adapt event. In PI, I know the two concepts we use in SAFe. It's about relentless improvement and it's about Agile. So one of the things which is very important for us in our organization is the inspect and adapt event, where we are able to look at the entire system. We are able to look at some of the problems we have, and we're able to look at how we can be able to fix it. Now, do you have any idea about the inspect and adapt event?
Yes, so in my organization, like we do 8 weeks planning for PI. So we plan for 4 iterations, and then the 5th one is for the inspect and adapt, so which is a 2-week iteration. So during that period, that's where we do our backlog refinement. We do the IP, that's the inspect and increment. Yeah, so the 2 weeks is where we do the inspect and adapt, and then also we do a backlog refinement.
All right. And one of the major events that happen during the inspect and adapt is the problem solving workshop. What are some of the techniques you have been able to implement in the problem solving workshop? Okay. We can pass that one. We can be able to move to the next question. All right. Let's kind of revisit the PI planning. Now, on the first day of the PI planning, who is responsible for giving us the vision and the top 10 futures?
So the CEO comes in with the vision and the goals. The goals of the product. And after he does that, the architect comes in and talks about the tools and how we're going to get there. And after that, we have the program manager comes up with the 10 objectives of what we're going to do. And when he's done, that's when the release train engineer comes in and ushers us into the breakout rooms.
Okay. All right. And then talking about managing dependency, because I think one of the major goals of the PI is to be able to get everyone to be in alignment with what the company is doing and to look at how the correlation of work within different teams. What have been your key role in facilitating dependency across the different teams?
Yeah, so facilitating dependencies across different teams, that's where the Scrum comes in. So, and during the PI, the week, I help my team manage the program board. So that's where we're able to like correlate the dependence, the teams that we're dependent on. So what I do also is also to reach out to the Scrum Masters of the team and also being able to coordinate the dependencies.
Okay, and now let's talk about implementing iterations, which is you just said you have your PI system in your previous organization is a 4 weeks event, right?
Yes.
For iteration, is it 8 weeks or 4 weeks?
8 weeks.
Oh,
so we plan for 4.
Oh, you plan for 4 iteration.
Yes.
Now, during the different iteration of you, what is your key role as a Scrum Master?
I don't understand what you mean.
All right, now the PI planning is over, and then you go back with your team, and then you are facilitating the different iterations. If you're planning cycles of 8 weeks, it's going to be 4 iterations.
Yes.
So what role do you play during the 4 iteration before the next PI planning?
Yes, it's this is where we do our daily stand-ups and make sure that we are focused, the team is focused on achieving the iteration goal. So we do the daily stand-ups and carry up the day, make sure that we're focused on achieving the goals every single day.
All right, and do you still need to do planning again, like iteration planning, or all the planning was already took place in the?
No, after the PI, so we come back and we do our well, now I understand what you mean. So yes, so we do our the IP planning.
Okay. And looking at the different Scrum events, we have the planning, the daily stand-up, the review, the backlog refinement, and the retrospective. Or if you were faced with a situation, one of the stuff that you probably noticed since you've worked in a safe environment is like there's sometimes many meetings and they can really be overwhelming. So if your team was asking you to take out some of the events because there are too many meetings, which one exactly will you take out?
Thank you very much for that question. For me, I think all the ceremonies are very, very important. There's a reason why they're there. For me, I see it as a body. You can't take out your hands and expect your eyes to work. So they're all connected. So if I'm to say, I will say I wouldn't want any of them to be taken out. But if you really ask me to make, if I have to say one, I'm going to say I don't even, for me, definitely it's not going to be the daily stand-up, because that's where we come every single day to make sure we inspect and we adapt. Maybe I'm going to say the review. But for me, I think all of them are very, very important.
Why would you take a review out? You don't want the stakeholder to know what you're doing?
I mean, they can, for me, I mean, like I said, I don't want anything to be out, but if I'm to take out, I can take out the review, because they can actually join us during the planning and also during the daily stand-up. If we will have to take out one of them, because they can also contribute during our daily stand-up. get their feedback as well.
Okay, one of the key role of the planning is to avoid stakeholders from being there, because stakeholders could intimidate your team members to want to commit more, right? If I'm your customer, I really want you to deliver more and more faster. And don't you see a challenge of bringing in stakeholders into your planning events? And don't you see that can cause some pressure?
Yes, I mean, it can definitely cause some pressure, but that's where also the maturity of the team comes in. That's why also the team should be able to know when to be courageous enough to be like, I don't think we can able to do this because it's going to affect our velocity, and we would not be able to deliver quality value at the end of the sprint. And also that's where we should stand as a team, and also the product manager, the product owner should be able to speak on the behalf of the team and be like, no, I think this, for us to be able to deliver the quality you're looking for, it's not just about the outputs, it's about the outcome. I don't think we should be able to overcommit too. So the team can also be able to speak up for themselves.
Okay. Thank you. I think our time is fast spent. And do you have any question for me?
Yes, I do. My first question is, what level of, I know you people at the company is doing Agile, but
Yeah.
like what level of maturity are you guys in Agile? And also safe, I mean, is it the entire company that is practicing safe, or you're scaling incrementally of team by team? I just want to know.
Yeah, so as I already said at the beginning, we kind of growing in safe. We have about 6 teams now. So the team we're looking forward to bringing a Scrum Master is a 7th team. And we have an Agile release train, which is already running. I would say we're pretty doing really good, which is why we're looking forward to bring in to look for more help. So yeah, that's definitely some good progress.
Okay, and so what's the what difficulties the team facing right now?
I think we kind of just need more support. The team really need more support. There's definitely no major problem, apart from the fact that sometimes the work might be overwhelming, which is why we're looking to get more support into the team.
Okay, thank you. And what tools are you using, Jira or Agile?
Oh yeah, we use Jira for now.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I know with my values, I'll be able to come in and make an impact, bring my values and my skill set to the organization, even being hired.
All right. Thank you very much for taking out your time to interview with us today. I'm definitely gonna get to hear from us maybe by the end of tomorrow.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate you taking out your time to interview with me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Are you gonna give yourself a round of applause? Okay, what happened? You are very nervous today.
I know. I don't know what's going on. I'm just not in a good mood. Do you know why? Because my day is already messed up. Look,
it's okay.
Kate.
Let's see today.
Yeah, I'm so pissed off already, dog. It's not.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what happened. When you get into an interview when you're not in a sound mind, nothing is gonna align. So
I know.
before you get into any interview, the first thing you want to do is you need some really creative space to get in there. Because if you already kind of not really in a good mind, the first question that throw you off, you're gonna see yourself like really. Now, we've done a pre-interview before. You handle most of these questions like
I know.
but
I know.
today I was like, oh, what's happening? Okay, now let's have the feedback. Now the first thing which I asked was about the PI planning. The stuff you did is that you were trying to explain every bit of part of the PI planning. No, don't do that. Now, the reason you ask that question in an interview is to see if you have a bigger idea, you have an overview of it. So I will say, yes, a PI planning is a 2 days event where the entire Agile release train come together to plan work that they're going to do for the next couple of weeks. In my organization, we normally plan for a cycle of 8 weeks, and within the first days, we do the plan, come out with a draft plan, and within the second day, we finalize the plan, and then get feedback from the manager and from the management, and everyone is okay. We commit to the plan, and then we do the retrospective. Then we go back and develop. Now, I did not go into what I do during the rooms and other stuff.
Yeah.
So in that case, if the interviewer want to have a follow-up question, they will say, okay, can you tell me a bit what happened in breakout room 1? And that's specific. It gives you now courage to talk about that. But if you start explaining step by step and you get to a point where you feel a bit not comfortable, now it kind of destabilizes your confidence.
Yeah.
So focus on the high level. All right, but then giving you a detailed plan of what happened on day 1 and day 2. One of the mistakes that you made was talking about the top 10 objectives. No, it's about futures. The futures, the objectives are created in the breakout room by the different teams. Then at the end of the day, the release train engineer merge all the objectives from the different team into the PI objective, then summarize it. But what we're working on are the top 10 futures.
Futures, yes.
All right. Then I asked a question about who gives the vision and the top 10 future. Now you said the executive or the CEO give the vision. Or now, most often it's the executive. It might not be the CEO. It might just be someone at the top line. They give the business value. They don't give the vision. It's the business value. This is why we're doing it. So the executive gives the business value of the entire event. And now when they do that, what happened is that the program management now come in and give us this vision and the top 10 futures. And then the architectural team now come in a more technical way to highlight how we are going to do it. And at that point, the release train engineer come in to facilitate the breakout rooms. So your team now is assigned the future they're going to work on. And in the breakout room, you are helping them, you are facilitating that they can break down these futures into objectives and then into stories and plan them across the different sprints. So if your team is running an 8-week sprint, it means they're going to look at how they can plan that work across the sprint. And when they're planning, the goal is not to focus on the detail. The goal is to focus on alignment, just to see how we can break it down and see where we have dependency with other teams, see how to coordinate the dependency. And then if they're planning for some reason, they notice that the work, they cannot complete all the work in 4 weeks. They're going to put some of the objective as uncommitted, which means although we've planned this, we don't think we can fit this within this PI planning. So we'll put that as uncommitted.
Okay, but the backlog refinement, the pre-PI that comes before this, that's, you can also say that you do the pre-PI planning, right?
Okay, now backlog refinement, which is about PI readiness, doesn't count towards the PI planning. Now, towards the PI planning, what happened is that the release train engineer might give you like a heads up of what we're going to be building, right? And your team just have a verbal discussion on it. You're not allowed to plan work before the PI. You just need to be ready to know that, oh, these are the stuff we're going to be working on, but you don't plan it before. Right? Yes, because Why? Because before that day, the objective might change, right?
Yeah.
So before that day, the business values or the priority might change. So you only kind of get ready. You kind of have an idea of what is going to come up, and then you get ready for the events. Yeah. But you probably might still be right. Different environment, they have the flexibility. And some even have meetings which doesn't even exist. Like they have names of meetings and other stuff. Yeah, yeah. So
Okay, so Doc, you said when we now plan our future into user stories and planning for the 4 iteration, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Now
And
that becomes the first draft of the program board for the first day, right?
Okay.
And then you hand this draft over to the program management, and the evening of day one, they are going to review all the draft that the different team produce, right? And then they come back in the second day with recommendations.
Okay.
Then you go back to breakout room on the second day to work on the adjustment based on the recommendation of the management. Now, the recommendation might be based on the scope, on seeing how we can maybe drop out some futures if we have so much uncommitted work, and how we can be able to maybe refine some of the scope. So the team, you go back to the team. Remember, while you are with your team, you're constantly attending the Scrum or Scrum with the release train engineer to give them an update about where your team is. Is your team already writing the objective? Is your team ready?
So that's day 1 and day 2.
Yes, day 1 and day 2. As a Scrum Master, you have to always break out, maybe at the top of every hour, have a 15-minute with a release train engineer in the Scrum or Scrum. And that is why you act more as a customer proxy, and you only kind of supervise to make sure your team is working on the alignment. You are not the main person really facilitating, while they are sitting on the box with the PO, and they're planning and they're asking any question to the PO. So you are only acting like if the program management have any question for your team, they come to you. So you're acting more like a customer proxy for your team, while keeping an eye on them, while participating on the other meeting, coming back and seeing what they are doing, making sure that they are only committing to what they can produce, or to what they can develop. All right. Then I ask you a question. Okay, now after day 2, when you have corrected the plan, before you even come out with a plan that goes on the program board, the business owner comes into the breakout room and assign business values. But you don't have to go into all of those details. I'm just explaining this so that you understand like what is happening day 1 and day 2. Like they come and assign business value to objective. So the futures, what happened is that you're breaking the futures into objectives, and then you're planning. You're now from those objectives, you're looking at how you want to plan out the work throughout the break the objective more into stories.
Stories, yeah.
And spread it across. And that's why the second day, the business owners are going to come in and assign business values. Business values simply means this is how we think we should prioritize this. This one is more important for us, so we're giving a business value of 10. This one is also important, we're giving a business value of 2, and all of that. And then after the second break, as you finish the second breakout room, now all the teams now, they present their program on the program board. So team 1, team 2, team 3, all of them, everything is put in the program board so that they can see where there are dependencies and all of that. And then the program is presented to the entire team so that everyone can see, and then they evaluate the risks. They do risk roaming. And the risk is like, okay, what are some of the risks in implementation of this? But the risk board is also developed while your team is in the breakout room working on the program. They're also writing out what are the risks that are involved in us doing this. So that when they come out in day 2, the first of all see if they can resolve the risks. When they resolve the risks until they see that, okay, the risks are at the minima, now they do a confident vote. Are we confident? If the confident vote is less than 3, the team go back to the breakout room. But in most cases, you will never have a confident vote less than 3 because of the way it is structured, right? There's forth and back, there is exchange, there is all of those communication between all the different teams.
Okay, so Doc, these objectives that we're going to sum, is it one objective or 4 objectives?
No, there can be as many objectives as possible based on the feature. So there's no limit to that.
Okay, okay.
Yes. So, and then if they commit to the plan, if they commit to the plan, now they do the retrospective. So I asked a question about the retrospective. The retrospective that happened at the end of the PI planning is to evaluate that PI planning. It's not to evaluate that 2-day session. It's not to evaluate the entire process.
Okay.
Just to evaluate the processes, how it was planned, how it was organized, what we can do in order to improve the events and all of that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And the next question I asked you, what about pre-PI planning? So pre-PI planning is just about getting ready, and then the RTM gives you like a heads up on what is happening, and then you can talk about that with your team. Now, the 2 days. Okay, you said something that you have 4-week sprint, and the 5th sprint you use in planning. No, you don't use up to 2 weeks. If you have a 4-week sprint, they might leave 1 week, which is the week of the PI. That week of the PI, the first 2 days is where we do the planning innovation. That's where you're getting ready.
Yeah, okay, that's what you do before the PI. Okay.
Yeah. So if you have a PI in a week, that means it's a 4-week cycle. After the 4-week cycle, we leave 1 week. That 1 week is the week of the PI. Now, the first 2 days of that week, we do our planning innovation, where we are trying to look at what that will happen in the next PI, right? We're trying to look at what will happen in the next PI. We're trying to look at a bit about what happened, what went well. And then we also have it in the inspect and adapt, where we're looking at some of the problem with the systems. And that is also where we have the problem solving workshop. And I asked you about the techniques you use in the problem solving workshop. There's the 5 why. So we're asking, why did this happen, and all of that. And there is you use the 5 why techniques, and you also use the fishbone diagram, right?
The what?
Fishbone diagram.
What's that?
Okay, it's used for root cause analysis. So it's mainly like root cause analysis technique. It's called fishbone because there's a main problem and you're trying to look at what is the root cause, what is the root cause. So it's a major problem and you're trying to break out what are some of the root causes. So they call it the fishbone diagram or the Ishikawa diagram.
So is it different from the 5 whys too?
Yes, different from the 5 whys.
Ah.
Okay, you don't have to know a lot, right? So you can just say 5 whys, and that's a lot. That's enough. Then
so that 1 week is where we do the inspect and adapt, and then the problem solving workshop.
It happened within the first 2 days, just first 2 days.
Okay.
So all of this is happening within the first 2 days.
Okay.
Now the last 2 days is when, let's say Monday and Tuesday, we do innovation planning and inspect and adapt. And then we also do a system demo. A system demo always occurs before the next PI, while we are demonstrating the entirety of what we have been working in the previous PI, right?
Okay.
Then when we have that now, let's say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we get into our PI planning.
Okay, so and the question you asked, what do I do during the system demo, right?
Okay, yes. What do you do? Have you participated in a system demo, and what do you do in the system demo? Now, the system demo is facilitated by the ROT, the release train engineer. So what you do is just that you make sure that you have your team ready, and if there's any presenter from your team, you make sure that all their presentation is ready and everything they have to demo is ready. And you also make sure that not only the PO alone from your team is demoing, you also make sure that developers also participate in the process of demo.
So where does the backlog refinement comes in now?
Backlog refinement happen only during the sprint planning. Well, okay, remember I asked you, what do you do after, during the 4 weeks? What do you do? That is when I was expecting you to talk about all the spring event, okay? When the 4 weeks, we start with our planning. We want to plan what we'll do in the next 2 weeks. We do our daily stand-up, we have our review, we have our retrospective, and we have backlog refinement to make sure that we are ready for the next iteration. So backlog refinement is happen within the 2 weeks iteration. Remember, we have PI planning to plan the work for 8 weeks, right? In the 8 weeks, you are breaking the work into two weeks of iteration. So in each of the 2 weeks of iteration, you're having all the events. You're having planning, you're having daily stand-up, you're having backlog refinement, you're having reviews, you're having retrospective.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So after the 2 days PI planning, the 3rd day we'll do our planning.
After the 2 days, the first 2 days is innovation planning, then inspect and adapt, where you have the system demo, the problem solving workshop, everything happen. Then on the 3rd day, you have now Thursday, let's say we start on Monday. Monday, Tuesday, it's going to be innovation planning, then inspect and adapt. Now from Thursday, from Wednesday, Thursday is going to be our PI planning. The 2 days PI planning will happen, right? Then the reason why I want to leave Friday, since if sometimes there might be some issues you want to handle on Friday. Then after that, then the next following weeks, we kick off with our iterations.
So we'll do the planning and right then, okay.
Yes, we'll start now with the iteration planning, and then iteration planning. Then also within that iteration, remember, you're still going to be having dependency meeting, mid-sprint meeting, Scrum or Scrum meeting, maybe they call some, how do you call it, ROTE thing. They might have like so many different names depending on the company you're working on. But the one to pay attention on is the mid-sprint planning, dependency meeting, Scrum or Scrum meeting.
Okay, so then you asked me something about so how do I do the dependencies with other Scrum Masters, something.
Oh, yes. I asked you during the P, how do you facilitate a dependency with other Scrum Master?
Yes.
All right, that was intentional because we just know that, oh, I have to facilitate dependency with other Scrum Master. Then, okay, how did you do that? Now, it's very simple, right? If your team was working on a story that depended on team 4, and you're the Scrum Master, and maybe you wanted to have more information on that story that the other team is working on, so that it can help you to be able to plan the gap between. What you do is that you definitely just reach out to the Scrum Master and team 4, and you say, okay, look, my team is working on this story and it's related to one of the story. I need some information about this. That's all. That's what I mean by facilitated dependency. And during the Scrum as well, what happened is that you might also have your team, you might also just meet in the dependency meeting and talk about all of that. There's a meeting called dependency meeting.
Okay, so Doc, what about the one about which ceremonies are you to take out? I mean, which one would you say?
You cannot take out any ceremony.
Exactly. But what if they insist?
No, right. The fact that I ask you a question doesn't mean that you have to answer that question. I'm just asking to understand if you understand what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that I'm asking you a question doesn't mean that you need to take that, ask that question. For instance, I can ask you a question. What has been a time when you had a problem with your PO? You don't have to say you had a problem with your PO.
Yeah.
I wish I could really have that, but then I wish I could really say that there was a time I worked with my PO, but unfortunately, I haven't really come across that so because I spent a lot of time to build relationship with my PO, and I really focus on relationship. I really focus on understanding them, and some of the time before any issue come up, I already address it. So, but I wish it don't happen, but I always try as much as possible to prevent it. So you don't always have to answer. I can ask you a question on what is going to be a time that the one you cancel an event. I'll say, okay, I've never thought about that. Now, the reason we have Agile and the Scrum framework is in place is to collaborate. It's just like a team. If you take one member out of a football team, then it's no longer a team. So I believe all the events are really important. But in most of the safe environment, what they do is that they can give their Scrum Master a day free where they're not having any meeting. Even a daily stand-up, they don't have it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
Hey, Jesus Christ. Is this PI planning that is my problem? It's okay. Doc, you will send me the recording, right?
yes,
Please.
I'm gonna send you the recordings.
Because I really have to listen to this well.
Okay, perfect. And
Vision planning.
okay, so we cover almost everything. Do you have another question again?
So what kind of question should I ask? What the ones I ask, what do you think? It's not
Oh,
strong
the
enough.
question that you asked. All right, you asked the right question on your journey with Agile, and then you also asked a question on what other question did you ask again?
What the teams are facing, the problems, the impediments, and all that.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not really a good question to ask.
What the teams are facing?
Yes.
Oh.
Ask your journey with Agile, and then you can ask a question about what they are looking for in a Scrum Master that will come in. That's a better question to ask because that's not what you used to say yourself.
Sell yourself, yeah,
So I
that's
always
true.
ask, yeah, how was the Agile journey about, what they are looking for in a Scrum Master that is going to join your team.
Yeah.
And yeah, then you can always say, is there any other thing you should know to better prepare for the next interview? It's a way to just ask for feedback. Is there any other thing you might want me to know to better prepare for the next interview? So, yeah.
I checked out the guy too. He's a developer. And
Yeah.
also a project manager. I don't know. I hope he will not ask me any technical for being a developer.
If they ask you a technical question, now the point is you don't have to pretend to answer technical questions. It's okay to say, okay, that's a bit technical. I might not really have hand on that as well. So you're not expected to be a super lady. No, just answer what you can answer. All right. And make sure that you're learning from it.
Okay, Doc, what about this DevOps thing? Because being safe, it might be this DevOps thing.
So DevOps is just, how can I say, it's an environment. It's just an environment where they try to automate and make sure that there's collaboration between development and the operation team. So you're not supposed to know anything, any technicality about how DevOps and other stuff. No, it's a culture. It's just like we want to integrate. We want to be able to automate. We want to make sure that there is no breakage between the development and the operation team. Let them be that collaboration. Yeah, sometimes they're also integrating development, security, and then operations just to make sure that we can have a continuous pipeline delivery across that lane.
Okay, so that's a continuous deployment and continuous integration. Okay.
Yeah.
This PI